Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting a new series called Live Action versus Animated. So in these videos and this series, I'm going to be comparing Disney movies that were originally animated that Disney has now made a live action remake of. So before we begin, let me just give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer as to all these videos that I will come up with, as well as tell you guys the template that I will be following for these videos and how I will kind of film all of them. My little disclaimer, a lot of the original Disney movies were based on fairy tales, and obviously Disney does not own these fairy tales, so many other studios have come out with their own rendition of fairy tales. We've had how many versions of Snow White over the years. In these videos, I will only be discussing the Disney versions because obviously that is what I love. I love Disney movies, and that's what I collect. I enjoy watching them very much. I will only be comparing the Disney animated to the Disney live action movies. I also will not be covering any sequels or anything because, for example, there is an animated sequel of 101 Dalmatians. There's also a live action sequel to the 101 Dalmatians, and those two sequels don't follow each other. So I will not be looking at sequels or anything like that, just straight one movie was an animated and now it's a live action. With that also being said, I will not be doing any movies that are based on, say, the villain of these movies. So for example, Maleficent and Cruella, those movies are based around Sleeping Beauty and 101 Dalmatians, but they don't follow the same story that was originally put out. They are more based on the villain of the story. So I will not be using those movies as my basis for these videos. And then my template that I'm going to be following for each of these videos is I'm going to tell you of the years that both of these movies came out, both the animated and the live action. I'm going to give you guys my ranking of the animated and live action, and then I'm going to tell you things I think the live action did better, and then things I think the live action did worse, and then just give you my overall thoughts on both films and how I think they kind of compare to one another. So with my disclaimer out of the way, let's get started. And for the very first video in this series, I'm going to be talking about the animated versus the live action 101 Dalmatians. So the animated 101 Dalmatians came out in 1961 and the live action remake came out in 1996. Again, I will not be talking about Cruella in this video. I will mention it a little bit, but for the most part, I'm going to be comparing the animated to the Glenn Close version of this movie because this movie obviously mirrors the animated movie where Cruella is a prequel and we learn about Cruella and where she came from, as I said in my disclaimer. Before ranking, I actually enjoyed both of these movies quite a bit. I gave the animated version an 8 out of 10 and I gave the live action version a 7 out of 10. I haven't watched the live action version in a really long time and I had a lot of fun rewatching this movie. I thought it was very, very good. So a few things I do think that the live action did just a little bit better than the animated. I thought it was very fun that there was a lot of like Home Alone type humor in this movie, which when I learned that John Hughes wrote this movie was not surprising because John Hughes obviously wrote Home Alone. So when there was a lot of that type of humor, like slapstick humor, I wasn't surprised to see that John Hughes was involved with this. Before I learned that the entire like escape scene with the dogs was very Home Alone-esque, and I was laughing the whole time because I actually really enjoy Home Alone. I don't love slapstick humor, but I love Home Alone, so I was getting those vibes and it was just a great time. Also very similar, there's like the two bad guys. One is obviously a lot smarter than the other one, and they just kind of like play off each other, and it was so much fun. Obviously, we have actual puppies in this movie, which is a lot of fun. There was definitely a few moments where they were computer animated, and you could definitely tell that they were computer animated and they weren't actually like live action animals, which for the scenes that they were doing, obviously we're going to have computer animation rather than sending a real dog down like a chute. They're going to computer animate that. Just my comment is on the fact that it was very obvious that it was computer animated. But they had a lot of other fun animals in this movie too. There was dogs obviously in the animated movie, but in this one they're all live action, so they're a lot of fun. There was a skunk, which was awesome, and obviously there was some raccoons, which I was so excited to see. Love me a raccoon. I think Glenn Close did a fantastic job as Cruella. I'll talk more about this in my overall thoughts, but obviously the voice of Cruella in the animated was amazing as well. But for this one, obviously she had to like fully embody and portray Cruella de Vil, and I think Glenn Close just did a fantastic job of that. But I'm going to talk more about that in my overall thoughts because I want to discuss that alongside the voice actress who voiced Cruella. So for now, I'm going to talk about a few things that I didn't like, that I do think the live action did worse than the animated version. The first one being, I suppose this is both a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing that they didn't have the animals talking, because I hate talking animal movies, particularly ones where they computer animate their mouths to move. Can't stand it. There's obviously movies like Homeward Bound out there where the animals are talking, but it's just kind of voiceovers. And that movie I'm completely okay with, even though they're technically talking animals, because their mouths aren't moving. It's just these voiceovers. And Homeward Bound is one of my favorite movies. That movie is a 10 out of 10 for me. So I will never hate on those talking animals, but it's like movies like Beverly Hills Chihuahua, the Buddies movies where their mouths are moving. Can't stand it. So it's a good thing that they didn't have the animals doing that. However, at the same time, obviously that put the actors in more of a starring role in this movie opposed to the dogs, because the dogs obviously can't fully portray everything that is going on. I do feel like they did a really good job of like having you understand what was going on when it was just animals on screen. It's hard to say because I'm an adult, so I know what's going on in this movie. I'd be interested to put a child in front of this movie and see if they can understand what's going on. It just made it a little bit harder to understand exactly what was going on with the animals because obviously they don't talk. But like I said, I do think that's an okay thing because I would rather have it a little bit more less understandable than have live action talking animals. Just my opinion. Speaking of Homeward Bound, I did find it funny in the movie that the puppies were all watching the Aristocats, specifically the scene where they're singing Everybody Wants to Be a Cat, and they changed the channel, and Homeward Bound came on. I was like, yeah, I'd rather watch Homeward Bound than the Aristocats too. The Aristocats is great, but Homeward Bound is a lot better in my opinion. I liked that they kept the same kind of like meet cute between Roger and Anita that was very obviously set up by Pongo. I do like that they kept that in the movie. I thought that was very cute. However, I really didn't like Roger's character in the live action version. I liked Roger a lot better in the animated. I liked his dorky, clumsy musician type person that he was. Roger in the live action was an American living in London trying to produce or create the next coolest video game, and I don't know, I just didn't like him very much. And one thing that I thought was funny, and obviously we don't know 100% how quick things happened in the animated version, because in the animated version Roger and Anita meet and it's like a little meet cute where at first Anita hates him and then they like laugh and they start to like each other, and then the next scene they're getting married. We don't see exactly how much time has passed between those two things, where in the live action movie Roger and Anita meet and literally within the same day Roger's proposing to Anita. We don't actually know how long it was between how fast they met in the animated to when they got married in the animated. We can assume that it was a lot longer than the same day that he proposed, but I just found it very funny that in the live action, literally within the same day of meeting Anita, they're already proposing marriage and getting engaged. And for my overall thoughts on these movies, obviously probably the star of both of these movies is Cruella de Vil. She's such a fabulous villain. Not even necessarily these portrayals of her, but every time I've like met Cruella de Vil, even in Disneyland, she's just so fabulous and amazing. And I love her. When I went to Disneyland in 2019 with my friends, we met Cruella de Vil, and I remember she was signing our autograph books, and when she was done, she screams out, "Assistant!" to whoever to take an autograph book and then take a photo with one of us. And I just thought she was so funny. So Cruella de Vil in general is just a fabulous, amazing villain that Disney has created. But I think Glenn Close in the live action is amazing, but also Betty Lou Gerson as the voice of her in the animated is just as amazing. Like I said, just Glenn Close had to like physically embody this character from head to toe, the look, the actions, everything. I'm not saying Betty Lou Gerson didn't do a great job as just doing the voice. She absolutely did. They both just gave such an incredible portrayal of this amazing villain. One thing about the live action in regards to Cruella is that they definitely put her more in the forefront of a lot of the shenanigans and things that were happening opposed to the animated. The animated, she just kind of showed up near the end and was part of like the crazy like car chase at the very end, where in the live action she was actually very much involved with actually trying to catch the puppies and find the puppies. And you know, the whole climax of the movie was her getting beat on by a whole bunch of farm animals. So I really enjoyed that we got to see like more Cruella, and like I said, a lot of like this like funny slapstick humor put onto Cruella in this movie. And just her portrayal in this movie really made me want to rewatch 102 Dalmatians. Like I said, I'm not going to be comparing that to anything because it doesn't follow 101 Dalmatians to Patch's London Adventure, I think the sequel to the animated is called. But I do really want to rewatch 102 Dalmatians because Glenn Close is in that movie again, portraying Cruella de Vil. So I really want to see that movie and just kind of get more of her as Cruella because I think she did such a great job. Speaking of Glenn Close, Betty Lou Gerson portraying Cruella, I definitely 1000% can say I prefer their portrayals, even just Betty Lou Gerson as the voice, in comparison to Emma Stone in Cruella. Cruella was a good movie. I personally just don't love Emma Stone, and I personally don't think she was like fully the best person for the movie. She still did a really good job, and I still did like the movie. I just grew up with the animated 101 Dalmatians, so when I think of Cruella de Vil, I think of like the crazy haired, fur crazy fashionista Cruella de Vil, and I don't necessarily think of the Emma Stone version. So that's not to say that the Cruella remake wasn't good. I just honestly think I actually kind of prefer Glenn Close as Cruella. I think she's what I kind of think of and envision when I think of Cruella de Vil. I liked that version. That is going to be my very first edition of live action versus animated. I had a lot of fun rewatching these movies. I hadn't watched 101 Dalmatians in a long time, and I really hadn't watched the live action 101 Dalmatians in an even longer time. So I was very excited to actually like get to sit down and rewatch both of these movies and kind of do like a back-to-back comparison of them. And I'm excited to continue on with this because there's a few movies on this list that I haven't seen in a really long time. I'm looking at my list of what's coming next, and I'm actually as excited as I just said I am. I'm really not excited about the next one, but I'm going to do it anyway to talk about it. If you guys know many things about me and have seen a lot of my especially past videos, you can probably guess what's next. It's definitely not one of my favorite movies, either the live action or the animated. It's not one of my favorites, but I'm excited to watch it anyway. So that is going to be it for now. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked this series and want to see more, then definitely give this video a like and subscribe for more of these videos that will be coming at some point. I don't know exactly when I'll be doing the next one, but follow me on Instagram, and as soon as it's posted, you'll know. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye, everybody.